Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 677, recorded live on Sunday, June 5th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have Epic rejoining us.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, welcome back. It's been a weekend. It's been fun and exciting. And yay, we can do a podcast and talk about DDO. I'm excited. I haven't had much sleep. This has been great. This week's screenshot, Zovan stares into the evening night sky in the 555th screenshot of the week. Thanks for sending in this week's screenshot. Gotta love the flaming wolf eyes. Do you know which tower that is? Off the top of your head? Thinking.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
House D, maybe?
That's where I was going with it, but I don't know if I think it is House D. Tide Turns Tower is what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will, fingers crossed, be next weekend. And you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website at DDOcast.com with our calendar. Baseball tournament season is starting this week. Weather permitting. You wouldn't know it's beginning of June by the weather here. But if they can drain the fields, we'll be doing that. So should be a lot of fun there. In any case, on the podcast this week, we got some news. We'll talk eventually about Update 55, Preview 2, and stuff. We do have a segment to splice in, which will not be part of the live show, but we'll have for the finished show. And then we're going to also review Update 54, which is actually where we're going to start today, because we want to make sure that we get to that with Epic and I, and we're working with a bit of a shortish timetable. So we wanted to make sure that we start there, and then I'll get to the news later, time permitting, with Epic, maybe just by myself. We'll see. We're playing this all by ear. Things change this weekend. It's great. We're having fun. So, Update 54, which launched April 27th. Wow.
It does not seem like it was that long ago. But,
I know, right? Just looked at the date really quick, which I hadn't done before. Like, oh, it's been out a lot. Yeah, it's about par for the course for us. That means we're reviewing it at the right time.
Yeah, time goes by too fast.
I know. And really, look, Update 54 review really just means we're going to talk about Tabaxi. That's kind of the big thing. I did pull out 3 things that changed, which maybe we'll start there, because there was a bunch of bug fixy stuff. The first one I'll bring up is that Trap the Soul changed. They took out the hit dice requirement. It's much more effective. Has a silly short cooldown. I think it's like way faster than Finger of Death and stuff.
Yes, it's 6 seconds, I think, for...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it seemed I have not played a caster since then with Trap the Soul, but I have seen a lot more soul gems on the ground and on the auction house.
If any dev listens to this, please make them sellable for 1 copper. Just 1.
Just so you can get them out of the inventory.
The number I've accidentally picked up thinking it was a remnant is frustrating. So yes, I just want to be able to sell them.
Yeah. But otherwise, good change, I think. I can agree on that. Spells that are not useful should be made useful. Pretty basic.
Agree. And it's a will save, which means my warlock can land it on a lot more than it can Finger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, it is kind of nice having being able to use one for various kind of mobs, right? So, it's hard to find instant death will saves. That's for sure. Another one bring up the character level display was changed. So what this means is it just gives you your level first, and then the class breakdown. It doesn't include epic or in the future legendary levels. I like this less because it's shorter and more because now at the beginning it just puts in parentheses what the total level is. I don't have to do the math of adding up the 8, 6, what's left, 4, 6 levels to figure out what level somebody is.
It's a good change, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
especially just because like it matters, right? Like I have had people try to join my LFM that are too high a level for what I'm trying to do. Um, which okay, there's reasons why that happens, and I'm not mad at them or anything, but it's I'm always like stopping to make sure I do the math right. I don't have to do that. The math's already done for me. It's great. And then the third one, when you release now, you release with 20 hit points instead of 1 hit point. And I'm claiming responsibility for this change because I brought it up to the devs at one point. But the thing that's great about this is this means that when you release to your airship and then you immediately click the button to get buffs, you don't die.
It's a wonderful change. As someone who dies often, I appreciate not having to wait 5 to 10 seconds on the ship before I can click the buff.
And if you want, like, it's kind of funny, right? Because it's like, well, it's only 5 seconds. Is it really that big a deal? Well, no, 5 seconds isn't a big deal, but you hit the buttons right there, and you just don't think about it, right? You just hit the thing, and then you're dead. You're like, wait,
Sure.
what?
It's like no matter how many times you do it to yourself,
Yeah.
it's going to happen again one day. And it's just an unnecessary annoyance that, I mean, this is a nice workaround, so.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Love it. Okay, so that'll bring us to Tabaxi, the new playable race. And there's a little bit of information in the news section about like why they chose Tabaxi. But we'll just kind of start. Maybe start with their. Or is there a place you want to start? We can start with appearance or whatever, wherever we
You
want to
just get
go.
on the list you got.
Yeah.
It's fine with me.
So how do you feel about how they look?
Well, I personally believe that they are the best looking race that SSG has done so far. Um, I forget who it was that said, or maybe it was the article they published on the website that said they knew they were finished when you could click the randomize button, and they all looked good no matter what. And there is a little bit of truth to that, where Tabaxi just looks good, and they can blink, and there's so many customization options that I thoroughly enjoyed and spent a lot of time when they came out just playing around with the variety of customization options that they have.
I have liked recently with and this is partly because of the races that they're doing, but also because of what they're doing with the races. I think Shifter, Tiefling, and Tabaxi, like the choices feel like they matter more as opposed to like some of the earlier races where it's like, wait, how are the eyes changing? I don't really see how the eyes are changing very like it's really subtle changes. But like these
Yeah.
recently they've all like the choices really make a difference in what the character looks like
By
holistically.
earlier races, do you mean like the human
Yeah.
halfling? Okay, I can agree with you there. I just rolled up a halfling for racial life, and the eyebrows themselves are a wonder.
Yeah, it's just like the choices are more distinct, I've noticed. Um yeah, I like how they move and like everything looks really slick about them. I haven't been able to really put a finger on it and maybe you just did. I have felt a little bit like their mains don't quite fit into the like the artistic scape of DDO. Like they're so different for me, they stand out. Not necessarily in a bad way. It just feels like, oh, this race belongs in it. Like came from a different game. Um, I also haven't really ever considered Tabaxi to have. Look, I'm not a huge lore guy. I didn't realize that they had or could have big manes like that. So I was a little like, whoa, this looks more like a lion than I was expecting.
Yeah. I also think going above my expectation. So my expectations were low
Uh huh.
because Shifter, in my opinion, looks absolutely terrible. So going from Shifter to Tabaxi, they exceeded my expectations, but now they've kind of set the bar, right?
hmm
And I feel like from now on, any race they introduce is going to be judged based off of Tabaxi, which can be good, but it can also be bad when if they don't meet that standard.
Yeah, moving targets, right? I mean, yeah, uh, yeah. The appearance, like the blinkings, are really kind of. What's funny is I don't think I actually knew that they blinked until I was interviewing the devs for the last show, and they said, "Oh yeah, they blink." I'm like, "Wait, they blink?"
Really? I was
I
on
didn't notice that at all.
Lamb making one, and in the character creation screen, I just saw it blink, and I had this moment of, do all the other races also blink? Because I never noticed it
Yeah, right?
before. So I had to go back and look to see if any other races blinked, and they didn't.
Yeah,
So
I know.
it's funny how you don't notice, but also you notice things like that.
I did. In fairness, I did not spend a huge amount of time in the character screen, and it was mostly like looking at the options, like and then clicking through them pretty fast, because I tend to assimilate information pretty quick. So like I would just like click through the different looks to kind of get an idea of what they look like. Uh,
You know, I'm a cosmetic guy.
yeah, I know this is why you're here, right? Like I need you to be good for this. Uh, but like for the characters that because the Tabaxi that I've made are my reincarnating character, I usually just take the randomized look. I don't go through them because I just choose
hmm
not, just this is only gonna be here for life, right? And then I'm gonna change it and just go with what it gives me and see what happens, right? Uh, but yeah, they look slick. That's for sure. It was definitely not what I was expecting to them to look like at all. Uh, and I'm still a little unsure about the big giant manes, but everything else looks really good. Um,
So mine does not have any hair. I went with a cheetah style, like Indiana Jones type look, and my opinion is if you look cool, you got to be powerful. Like the two go hand in hand.
uh huh.
It's not all about the big numbies.
Let's talk about some of the things they get. So they have the little the speed boost thing. Uh, and then their enhancement tree. And how do you feel about the trees and stuff?
So I think that so we had a guildie come back recently and asked the question, what's what build is perfect for Tabaxi? And my answer is there isn't one. Maybe Shuri is perfect, like perfect for Tabaxi. Um, but the reason or the reason there isn't just a perfect quote perfect build for Tabaxi is because it's just a great utility tree, and it could work with so many things. I'm running it right now on my monk. I played it with Inquisitive, Bow. It, evasion in the tree is really nice for classes that don't get that or don't want to wait until Shadow Dancer or can't spend points in Shadow Dancer to get evasion. The deflect arrows is cool, but I noticed specifically I've done now 6 or 7 Tabaxi lives on my various tunes that 18 seconds of movement speed if you take it, it's just it speeds up leveling
It's amazing.
so much. It's amazing. So I'm thrilled. I know from a power perspective, people might not be as happy about it because there's almost in a lot of situations there's going to be a better race just from a numbers perspective, but they get +3 to attack or +3 to damage, 2 sneak attack dice, and the dodge bypass is going to be useful in Isle of Dread. So I think they're a great race. I think it's a powerful race.
Yeah, the cat speed is like one, it's really nice, right? Like you end up you don't realize how much you're gonna end up getting a benefit from it until you start really playing it. Um, but I really liked that interpretation of like because in fifth edition Tabaxi, which I'm playing one in the Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign that we're doing, uh, they have you can double your movement speed, and then it resets whenever you don't move. Uh, and I was expecting them to get an action boost, speed boost, like just a vanilla one that everyone has, that all just like every other class. So this was kind of a surprise to me, and I just really liked that design choice. It's on point for the race and pen and paper as an interpretation. It's a lot of fun and really useful. Like I just really liked that choice. So it kind of started off everything from kind of a really nice perspective. Um, but yeah, the sneak attack die is nice to see in there. There's I do find it interesting that we're talking about a race that can choose between charisma and dexterity. I'm not, I'm not sure if we have another race that can like
I
that's.
don't think maybe Drow. Drow has
I
Dex
thought
and
it was charisma.
Charisma.
Is that what
I
that
think
is?
it's Dex and Charisma for Drow.
Okay.
But originally it was all going to be Charisma and Dex or Wisdom and Dex, and I remember specifically several of us having conversations would still start begging to have the base race be Charisma Dex and the Iconic be Wisdom and Dex, which is eventually what it was, and
Right.
I think it's a great choice.
Yeah. Um, the here's a bunch of things that you can use dexterity to hit with. Was great. I like that. I'm pretty sure it's in here that you can. Yeah, and then you can upgrade that to damage. So that's always. I always like seeing more ways to use different stats. That always just feels like a really nice touch to me. Uh, with that, just because it opens up more character options and character build choices and stuff like that. So that's always great to see. Um, yeah, the base tree was I think really solid. I'm still not entirely sure how much dodge bypass is gonna be a thing. But I mean the numbers there are so low anyways. It's kind of like oh cool whatever. Um,
Don't sleep on it.
yeah, no, I hear you. I'm
Um,
sure it'll
I
become more and more.
I played around on Lamb quite a bit um, this week or last week, and it's going to be noticeable. So I have my two-handed fighting
Hmm.
fighter with no dodge bypass, and uh, it was a pain attacking some of the new mobs that have.
Interesting.
I don't. I hate to throw out a number out there, but it's noticeable. It is noticeable dodge. Whereas you take a ranged character or my monk that had 10% bypass at the time, and it makes a world of difference because it's almost a flat increase in DPS if they have 1% dodge
Hmm.
and you're missing, that number of attacks. It's so. Anyways, I think it's going to be more useful in legendary levels, and I just when Isle of Dread comes out, give it a try.
Yeah. What's your sense on the Trailblazer?
I don't own it, and I've not played it,
Oh, okay.
but I have seen Speedy play it as a monk, quarterstaff user, and he did a live with us. And he did well. It was fast to say the least, and it seemed to do decent damage, and he had fun. The wide sweep ability in tier 4, the trip one,
Yep.
it's really good. So he enjoyed it, and that's really my experience with it so far.
Yeah.
Have you played it?
No, I haven't. Um, it does intrigue. Like, I like the kind of the differences that are there. Um, it doesn't feel too quarterstaff focused. Um, I don't think my monk is going to end up here. I think he's still going to stay in Asimar. But I do. I do like the design choice a lot. I've said this a number of times on the show, but I continue to like how their choices for iconic class and race pairings make a lot of sense, but aren't usually the first thing you would think of.
You mean specifically in this case, actually going with a quarterstaff build?
Well, no, I'm just like Tabaxi and Monk. Like that's not something that necessarily stands. Again, I'm not a huge Thor guy, but like that, it's not something that I would necessarily think of right off the bat. Tiefling Bard is
Sure,
pretty
I
close,
see what
but you'd
you're
probably think Sorcerer first, right?
saying. For
Um,
sure.
Warforged Paladin, like these are all choices that they've made that are not ones that I would like. The most obvious one that I think is uh, Deep Gnome Wizard, right? Like that one's pretty on the nose. ASMR Ranger, like these are not choices that I think would be a typical choice, but I don't know that any of them really like push the meta in any capacity, but they are interesting. They're generally pretty decent, and I just like that they're there and really encourage a different way of thinking about building characters, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. Um, I, I do. Just thinking back on the builds that I've played, I seem to play the base races more in
Yep.
general. Maybe that's a cost perspective of, hey, I don't want to use a lesser heart if I'm not doing the class that the iconic was
Hmm.
designed for. But I agree. I think it's good design choices, and it's cool and adds a little bit of flavor and diversity to the game.
Yeah, Shifter Barbarian, right? Like it's not like when you it's not what I would have expected at first, and I don't think anyone's gonna come out and say that the hand wrap Barbarian is pushing the meta in any way, shape, or form. But I love that it's in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it specifically on that one. I wish that one was a little more competitive,
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
because I do think that it is nice not going with the obvious choices for some of these races, if there is always an obvious choice. But just as long as it is, um, I would say on par with,
Yeah.
yeah. But maybe I didn't give that one enough time. But
Yeah. I don't know. I tried it. It was okay. It wasn't knocking my socks off or anything. It honestly it felt mostly on par with a lot of the other ones. Um, but yeah, the Tiefling scoundrel works. It may be one of the better ones. I mean, Deepwood Gnome it's a gnome, so like already kind of on point.
yep,
Um, but I think they all work pretty well, just not
I
great.
think
And
so.
I think this one's a little bit above par for the Iconics. That's what it feels like to me from having what I've seen.
Scourge worked really well when Ranger was
Hmm.
meta itself. It's a good tree, and yes, it's not what you think, but Scourge was a good build at the time, or when I say at the time, probably a couple 2-3 years ago,
Right.
and it can still work today.
Oh
Don't
yeah.
listen to me when I when I say things aren't meta anymore.
I think you could take any iconic build and with a few tweaks off of the pathing, you have a solid build choice that could compete and play and keep up with anyone. So, and I think like this iconic Trailblazer is there, and I like the design choices. I like some of the abilities, like getting true seeing and tumbling to get incorporality and concealment. Like a third of the time
You
is
mentioned the true seeing.
oh, you don't like the true seeing?
It bugs me that it is worded differently than all the other true seeing enhancements in the
Oh,
game.
sure.
But yes, true seeing is fine. I
Mm.
just consistency.
Like the spring attack in there is pretty neat. So yeah, I there's some great design choices, and then the stuff that it has a lot of unique things in here that I like that's in here. And yeah, I am kind of looking forward to playing one. It is coming in my lives in the future. But also just I I like the look of it. And I've seen a couple people playing them through, and it looks great.
I agree.
Uh, Anything else you want to say about the just Tabaxi in general, the feel of them, how they play, anything like that?
I just feel cool when I'm playing my Tabaxi.
Yeah, they're a cool looking race, a slick race. I like the. Um, how do you feel about the dances?
I
Like the
I like
dances?
them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like them. It's I've tried the male ones. I'm trying to think if I've seen the female ones.
I actually think I've only seen one of the female ones. You
I
should,
think I have because I think that's the one where she licks her paws. I think so.
yeah,
Anyways, they're good. I approve.
I agree. Uh, I don't know who is in charge of like figuring out the dances or if it's a group effort or something, but I'm constantly impressed by most of the dances.
I think I heard someone say either Tolero or maybe Cordo that it's one of the more consuming aspects of creating a new race, or a light resource consuming is
Well,
making the dances
okay, because you have to find one that works and looks great, and then you have to
and
animate
animate
it.
it. Yep.
But it also needs to not be too on point of certain ones, right? Um, it sounds like I think I remember. I think it was in their thing about the write up about dances and like how they need to not have them be necessarily like copy someone else, or like so you would probably never get to see like a Gungam style dance just because that there might be copyright issues there. So, but yeah, I like the dances. They're fun.
Let's avoid lawsuits.
Yeah, right. Um, yeah, good dances.
Well, all in all, I'm very pleased with Tabaxi,
Yeah.
and even though I generally felt that Isle of Dread, at least the packages, um, didn't offer as much as some of the previous ones have, it made me feel a little bit better that Tabaxi was just so well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, we talked about the bundles. Is like, okay, cool. You gave us an autos box, which is a really great value, but also doesn't feel like as good of a value as a lot of the others. Like, there's no universal enhancement tree and stuff. Or I was hoping there was gonna be an
Yes,
epic destiny and stuff that you get to use again and again and again and again, and have a more lasting impact into the game. But
you and I agree on that. It it felt a little cheap to me to do that just to add value. And me being who I am, seeing that one tome in there that gives me one additional point just makes me angry because I know I want it. Uh, there's just so much money.
they will be eventually available, right? So
They
allocated.
will.
So, all right. Anything else you want to say about update 54? I think I'll just close in
Nothing I
saying
can
like
think of.
it's it's still weird to me that they made this a full update.
And I forget why. I remember Cordo made some comment on it, but originally it was supposed to be a patch like they've done in the past with bringing the races before the actual update. But for some reason, they made this an actual update.
They decided it had enough new thing to it to warrant an update, which
Mm,
I I don't necessarily disagree that a new race should have an update, its own update. Um, it still feels a little weird though, and I, even more than that, it feels kind of like someone's like, "Hey, you know what? I think we could call this an update, and that gives us one more update that we can say we released this year."
I'm a big fan of precedent. And when you've not done that in the past, at least the
Yeah,
past 2, 3 expansions, I don't like changing it. In the same way, like when they said the raid was going to be delayed a few weeks, as they've done in the past, um, or it made it sound like a way like this was their established way of doing things. And yes, you did
sort
it
of
with
is.
Feywild, but It's not really your
Well, they
tradition.
did it with each of the expansions. Well, the last couple expansions that had raids, except that Ravenloft and Sharn had a raid with release
Yes.
and had two
Yes.
raids, not one.
Exactly. And that's why, I mean, I don't know if, just speaking as a player and as a customer, little things like that do influence or do impact the player base, and it doesn't feel good.
No.
And I'll leave it at that.
Although I would say I would I would be more fine with, oh, we're gonna release a raid a month after and release another raid 2 months after. I would be more happy with that than just one raid
Yes.
on
Me,
time.
me
So
too.
uh,
Me too.
I have more to say about there being one raid than anything else.
I agree.
I think we got a little bit of time here. Let's jump into some game news quick. There's not a whole lot, but we'll run through what we did get. They did release a write up on Isle of Dread on how they were adapting it. It which was interesting. I recommend reading. We'll link to it in the show notes. The thing that really kind of stood out to me most was they're interpreting this content, but from a bit of a different perspective than some of the other, like Ravenloft is pretty true to what's going on. Sharn, they're not going off of like a storyline that they're pulling from. But it was interesting to read their write up on the Isle of Dread about what things. There's some things that are not being included and are written out, and they're adding their own kind of lore into it to kind of explain what's going on with it and how it pulls into things. So that was pretty interesting.
Makes me wonder what those conversations are like between Wizards of the Coast and SSG when they're like, "Hey, so we don't have the resources and time to implement this part of the story, but what if we did this instead?"
Yeah,
It'd be cool to sit in and uh, hear how some of those conversations go.
I definitely can understand we don't feel like we should invest the time and resources to make these races that only ever appear in Isle of Dread, whereas we
Oh
could
yeah.
uh, do Eder caps, which we can use in other places. Uh,
Yeah, I understand that.
yeah, that was
Um,
interesting.
did you see? I know you saw Vecna's drawing
Yeah,
or concept art.
that was pretty awesome.
It makes me excited to play the raid.
I don't care if it's lore appropriate or anything. I'm excited that Vecna is going to be in the game. Like that, even not being a lore guy, like that's a name that I know, right? Like that's
Yeah,
pretty
and
cool.
saying that he's going to play a part in the story
Hmm.
going forward, that's cool. Um,
Yeah.
so I will say one thing. I was talking to Ying, one of our guildies, and he was talking about, you know, planning some of his builds around fighting Vecna. And I just made the comment that, if they're planning on using him throughout the story, we're not guaranteed to actually get to fight him yet. Um, in fact, we may just get to see him. So who knows what they have planned for the future.
I do. One of the things I really kind of appreciate about DDO is the way they use kind of some iconic characters like Lord of Blades, Miranda's Vol. Uh, those are the two that really kind of come to mind. I don't know if Truthful and Stormweaver are things that they made or if that's in other lore, but I like those. We have some really good big bad characters, right? And even some secondary bad like Militia is really popular. Uh,
I
so
want them to bring back what's his name from the Mines
Gritz,
quest.
Gratz,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
he'd be a good villain.
yeah, I agree. If anything, like he feels a little lackluster in that fight. To be honest, it's kind of more of a beatdown than anything else. Doesn't really do anything super interesting.
I'm just glad to finally know who the voice is in that Feywild
I
quest.
thought it was the Fomorian King.
No, I did too. Well, I did after the raid came out, and I was like, "That is lame. Like that is so
Yeah,
lackluster."
no,
But now to know it's Vecna,
yeah,
it's
much
great.
better. Little retcon, even though it wasn't actually a retcon. All right, some new stuff from the release notes. I'll just kind of pull out a few things. Male Tabaxi are no longer going to get stuck in a casting animation forever when casting particular alchemist spells. Probably pretty good. Let's see. There's a Flame Strike now does its proper damage and respects line of sight and no longer gets supercharged when cast by a monster. It's one of those notes. It's like, oh, that's why Flame Strike feels a little beefier these days. Glad I just got hit by Flame Strike a few times in the last life. Since
Is there anything in there about Comet Fall?
no, I didn't see anything about Comet Fall. The 10% bonus to ability score modifier to damage granted by wielding Bastard Sword and Dwarven War Axe now applies properly, regardless of exactly how you're using those weapons. Hey, can I just throw out there that I feel like we could use another hand-and-a-half weapon. I don't know what it would be, but I feel like we could use another one. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know enough about D&D to even know what the ones available are.
Well, there were a lot more weapons in 3.5, which were based on 5th edition really condensed weapons. So like an example of that in 3.5 you have a sickle and a comma. In 5th edition, they're the same weapon. In terms of the stat block, it literally says, pretty sure it just says, hey, types of sickles include a comma, right? So they kind of boil them down into a smaller grouping of weapon, but then let you kind of branch them out. Like it's the same weapon, but you can have different types of weapons. It's like a katana would be a bastard sword. Or
Well,
the sword that goes with the katana would be a short sword.
I really wish they had the liberty to do that in this game instead of having like heavy and light crossbows, heavy and light repeating crossbow, short bow, long bow. It's just too much, and there's no difference between the two except adjust the dice. But that's a rabbit trail, and there's no need to go down that.
The Wondrous Ring in the Sands Adventure Pack is now a little cooler. I don't actually know what that means specifically.
It's the wrong name. It's a mysterious ring.
This is a mysterious ring, isn't it?
And it's going to be craftable, and it's going to have a random sands set on it when you pull it. So it'll be similar to the Gem of Many Facets, except it'll only be one set. Yep.
That is
very
a little cooler.
Good. Very cool. Yes.
There's new Caneth crafting recipes. Haven't looked at those, but that's great.
They are double effect.
The double effect
shards.
ones?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. Love it. I feel like they're going to have to raise the level of Caneth crafting, I think, soon.
I think they are. Oh, wait, you mean like your level?
Like how high you can level in Caneth crafting?
Okay.
That feels like that's going to be imminent. I mean, if we're going to go to level 40,
sure.
And you're going to have random craftable loot going up to level 40, they're going to have to increase that level soon.
Which I've not checked that myself, but I've heard that those shards are ridiculously high.
I mean, it feels like they should be, but
yeah, sure. I've not looked.
Many effects in the game that used to scale with epic level now scale with a total of epic and legendary level. Effects have been changed, specifically say so in their text. We just put a pin in that, and should we make like an over under of like, let's say 10. We're gonna get over the next 2 years 10 different release notes saying that they add this in like it should be. You want over or under? That makes sense.
I'm not following you on that one.
So it says that these effects will be changed to say this in the text.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put the number at 10. How many release notes do you think we're gonna get? It's like this ability now says epic and legendary like it's supposed to.
Oh, I think they're gonna miss enhancements. I don't see how they can't miss enhancements or feats or whatever we're talking about that need to scale as we continue to level up to 40.
Bonuses to
if it's on any of my builds, I'll be happy to point them out.
There you go. Bonuses to ability score modifier to damage now described in the same way in tooltips for single weapon and two-handed fighting feats. Makes sense. If you have bonuses to ability score modifier to damage from single weapon fighting feats and two-handed fighting feats, then only the highest of those 2 sets will apply. Sure, makes sense. Uh, this one I like. Hamstring effects are now considered bleeds and can be removed with effects that remove bleeds, such as closed wounds and regeneration.
Yay.
Oh my god, yay. Uh, Man, they toned it down a while back, but the archers in the sands with like the minute hamstring. Oy.
Yeah, there's several quests that come to mind that I run for Reapers
Yeah.
that I'll be glad to be able to get rid of it.
The dreaded exploding spider of Sharn has had its hit points reduced to 25% of its original value. That's a lot less.
That one makes me sad.
They also give a little more time before they explode.
Also makes me sad.
Except on hardcore.
Trolling people just got a little
True.
bit harder.
Um, I kind of hope they actually expand those in other places and maybe give them slightly different skins. But that's me.
Sure, I can remember the first time I ran into him,
Yeah.
Sharn, and the shocked look on my face when I died.
I mean, now that they have the circle around them, I love them. They're great. Some other stuff. The party display UI no longer makes players with temp hit points appear to be at a higher percentage of health than they really are.
Love it.
I use temporary hit points so much right now in my TR build because I'm using Shard Storm so much. Almost exclusively, specifically because of the hit points.
I'm a warlock, so I have affirmation and I have
Mm-hmm.
taunt. So there's
Yeah.
times where I've got like 2k plus temp HP,
And
and I
like
get
100 hit
tired of
points.
saying, "Hey, can you top me off?" I'm actually at 100 hit points.
I mean, I had that problem in early seasons of hardcore with the barbarian hit point one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like I need a top off. I'm not as high as it looks. So that'll be great. Let's see. The quest selector UI now has a search bar. Praise the Lord and hallelujah. You
Yeah,
can also search by level.
I've given up before just looking for the quests that I'm trying to
I
advertise
know,
for.
right? One of the main reasons why I don't put quests in the actual thing is that specifically because it's too much pain to go find them.
Hmm.
Black and blue and newcomers. The number of monsters has been reduced, as well as several groups have been removed entirely. Creeping Death, the number of monsters was reduced, and some traps have been updated to affect monsters. Love it.
Yeah, Creeping Death definitely
A
needed
lot.
some help. Yeah, there's a lot of
They're
mobs
just
there.
kind of sloggy, and you look like I don't run Black and Blue or newcomers because they're so much longer than all the other stuff.
Well, like, so I don't mind a bunch of mobs if it makes sense. Um, yeah, what's the one in Stormhorns where it's just rounds and rounds of mobs,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
That
Breaking the
that makes
ranks.
sense. Or if they're actually doing something in to go along with the quest storyline, that makes sense. So, for
Yep.
instance, in Isle of Dread, you'll just see dinosaurs like eating on plants and stuff that turn around and attack you. That's fine. But just sitting in the middle of a hallway, like 15 guys ready to gank you, no.
They updated some leveling stuff. The dungeon landscape, so you will now earn They rephrased their note to say that you earn legendary XP from any dungeon, landscape, or raid that is of legendary difficult, meaning that its base CR is 30 or higher. Don't ask me which landscapes those are, but
I
right.
also asked why we're calling them landscapes instead of
Instead of wilderness
wildernesses.
areas.
Yeah, because
Fair
I was
enough.
like, is there a difference?
No,
But there isn't.
and I think this was actually something that was already in there. They're just like people are like, hey, you just said dungeon. What about these? Like, oh yeah, no, that counts too. We'll put
Yep.
that in.
I asked. I was like, "Is there a difference between a wilderness and a landscape?" And the answer
No.
is no. But I was just curious.
Yep. Single weapon specialty and two-handed specialty have the line in there that if you have bonuses from both single weapon and two-handed fighting and you're using a hand and a half, you're only gonna get the higher bonus. So that's in there. Legendary toughness now has a prerequisite of 21 Constitution. And then there's a new feat, legendary aim. While using a ranged weapon, you get plus 10 to attack and 5% dodge bypass. There's that dodge bypass again, so that seems like that's going to be a really good feat.
Yep.
Uh,
Don't really understand the legendary toughness prereq because I think the epic toughness is 21 Constitution.
so you think it maybe should be higher? Yeah. I
I
mean, but if
mean,
you make it too much higher, it's not like you're gonna get a chance to get much higher going up that level, I guess. But at least until they start giving us bigger tomes.
oh, they will.
Uh
Don't you worry.
huh. Got to make that money somehow, right? Let's see. Exalted Angel is their fourth core is now a multi-selector. So you get Heavenly Blessing. So when you finish an angelic charge or leap of faith, you and allies near you get healing instead of it doing damage, which I think a lot of people will be happy with.
It's great change. Great
Yeah,
change.
a lot of people didn't necessarily want the aggro and damage dealing from using that.
I would
Makes
not.
sense. Yeah,
No. But every time I wing now that I'm gonna heal people around me, that's great.
yeah. Grandmaster's Master of Philosophy is now a multi-selector um, that basically get your stunning and blow and stunning fist feats are now considered either light builder, dark builder, or void builder attacks. So you can choose that.
Yeah. That one was me.
That
Yeah, I didn't like
I didn't
the
like it either.
two.
It was pretty
Yeah,
bad.
no one uses the wholeness of. I mean, this
I
this
like
game at least
I
the people.
appreciate the design attempt to tie it into the class, but
Yes, I appreciate that, and I wish wholeness of spirit or the other one were useful, but they're not. And if I
yeah.
were to use those with the people I play with, the quest is going to be done by the time I get finished. So I was just glad that we changed it to something a little bit more
Yeah.
useful, and hopefully, if there's ever a monk pass, it'll be even more useful.
Hey, Lynn, if you're listening, maybe in the future, you could add that if you want to tie into those abilities, make them usable while moving. Attack could still interrupt it, but let me
Yeah,
move with it.
that
That
would work.
yeah. See, Shadow Dancer. They added when you cast Trap the Soul, it automatically applies 3 stacks of Darkness debuff, even if the enemy survives the spell. That is, you are vulnerable to sneak attacks as -3 to spell resistance, PRR, and MRR, and it lasts for 12 seconds. They drop one at a time, max of 3 seconds. Um, I still think this is probably the worst core.
I I I don't know why we used trap the soul.
Here's the thing: I don't mind that we're using Trap the Soul, and it feels actually on point for Shadow Dancer. My issue here is still a structural issue with Shadow Dancer, in that you're all like, what build is gonna use both of those parts, right? You're either getting the Trap the Soul part, or you're getting the 3% dodge bypass, fort
Hmm.
bypass, and damage to helpless, which are really low numbers. Tell me what build is going to use both of those? I mean, look, I get it. You could play a melee wizard that has Trap the Soul or whatever, fine. But that's not a big thing in the game. And in and of itself, that even if you were going on that, well, we want to be benefit to both, well, then you need to bump the numbers up even more because they need more help.
Yeah, I no,
And less
no, I
gens playing it.
agree. Yeah, I understand trying to appeal to both casters and melee or DPS whatever, but
I just don't understand it in
that
the
one
same
is
tree.
yeah, it's pretty boring.
Like, you have multiple trees for a reason. It's necessary. Anyways, and then Steel Star said that generally speaking, non-quest sources of XP that don't specifically say they work only for a specific kind of XP, like the XP stones you get from sagas or daily dice, will also grant legendary XP provided you're level 3 or higher. So, if you're level 30 or higher, the sagas or daily dice will give you legendary XP. The stones is what he's really kind of the auto stones is really what he's referring to here, because they specifically say they give you heroic epic XP, so you won't
Hmm.
get legendary XP if you try to use them. And I don't think the game will even let you. God, I hope the game won't let you. If it does, send in a bug report immediately.
It doesn't with an epic one, so like if you
Ooh.
tried eating it in heroic, so I hope it
Mm,
won't with legendary.
yeah.
Uh,
Bonus days, 10% buddy boost and 5% Reaper XP boost this weekend. So go enjoy the hell out of that through today. Today is the last day for double bonus points. The sale is Build for Success, 20% off of Wish of Memories, Tomes of Learning, select AP tomes, and select enhancement trees through June 9th. You can also get a free Medium Slayer count boost with a coupon code Slay Bee Potion. B as in boy. Also through the 9th. All right, that's the game news. Hey, man, thanks for joining me today.
As always, PJ, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, this was fun. It's always good to have you on the show. I can't wait to talk more about Isle of Dread. We're gonna have a big old party when we get to review Isle of Dread. We're gonna open the floodgates and see how people can get in here. It'd be great.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to all the folks who contribute to DDOCast, to Sandy Stone Games, Wizards of the Coast, and to Cyberbeers for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us at DDOCast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up at DDOCast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff, including various adventures in DDO and D&D tabletop. We're playing through Tomb of Annihilation. It's a lot of fun. So you can check that out. If you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, you can leave a comment, or you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also find us for latest cast updates on social media. At DDOcast on Twitter is the best place. So go ahead and stay tuned. We will have, if you're listening to the recorded version, we will have the segment spliced in after this. So stay tuned for that. May all your tackles be crits, all your chest level appropriate. Have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.
Greetings. Salutations. It's Guru Samus with your loading screen mantra. Cuckoo clock. Joy. Challenges. Experience. Con is not a dump stat. This was your loading screen mantra. I'm Samus. We'll see you next week. Toodles. Namaste.